All right, let's try a little thought experiment. What if we got a message from the future? Not a prediction, but a memo. A memo dated June 30th, 2028. It's basically a postmortem on a global intelligence crisis that hasn't even happened yet. This comes from Citrini Research, and it's a fascinating, if a little scary look at what could be coming.
At the very heart of this warning from the future is this deeply unsettling question. What if all the AI optimists are totally right, but the end result is actually an economic disaster? I mean, it's a paradox, right? It goes against everything we think we know about progress. So let's unpack how something like that could even happen. The way the authors do this is super clever. They frame their whole analysis as a look back from the future, like they're sitting there on June 30th, 2028, writing a memo about how the world just completely unraveled. It's not a prediction. They're not saying this will happen. It's more of a cautionary tale, a post-mortem on a crisis that, we might still be able to avoid.
So what does this future actually hold? Well, according to this memo, by the middle of 2028, the economy is it's unrecognizable. All the old rules have been thrown out the window, and the change was fast, it was brutal, and it really caught everybody off guard. And boom, the first shockwave from the future hits you right between the eyes, an unemployment rate of 10.2%. But this isn't your typical recession. This is a massive structural shift in the workforce, a seismic event that nobody really saw coming. And the financial markets, well, a 38% plunge in the S&P 500 from its peak. The memo paints this picture of a market where that initial shock and panic has kind of given way to this cold, chilling acceptance of a new reality. The big AI boom has turned into a bust of truly epic proportions.
Now, this is where things get really weird. See, on paper, the economy looked like it was booming. Productivity and GDP numbers were just through the roof. But that wealth, it was trapped. The memo calls it ghost GDP. Just imagine a single GPU cluster doing the work of 10,000 people. That output gets counted in the official stats, right? But the money never actually flows back to people. It doesn't buy a cup of coffee, it doesn't pay for a haircut. The velocity of money just grinds to a halt.
So where did it all start? What was the first domino to fall? Well, the memo points the finger at late 2025. And ironically, it starts in the very industry that was cheering for AI the loudest, the software industry. This is where the whole thing begins to unravel. And the thing is, this disruption happened at lightning speed. By late 2025, you've got these AI coding agents that are so powerful, a single developer can do the work of an entire team. So by the middle of 2026, companies are looking at their huge software bills and saying, wait a minute, we can just build this ourselves for way cheaper. And by the third quarter of 2026, even a giant like ServiceNow is in serious trouble. It was a clear sign that absolutely no one was safe. But here's the crucial difference. This wasn't a Kodak moment, where some old guard company just ignores the future until it's too late. No, in this scenario, the big companies jumped on the new technology. They aggressively adopted AI to slash costs and survive. But in doing so, they were actually speeding up their own destruction. They were funding the very tools that were making their business models obsolete. Now, this fire didn't just stay contained in the software industry. By early 2027, powerful AI agents were in the hands of everyday consumers. And these agents, they basically went to war against what you might call friction. Any business that makes money just by making life a little bit easier, well, they were now a target. Just think about it. Imagine an assistant that works for you 24/7, and its only job is to get you a better deal. It never forgets to cancel a free trial. It automatically shops for cheaper car insurance every single year. It can handle complicated things like booking a whole vacation or doing your taxes in just a few seconds. I mean, entire industries that were built on us being lazy or things being complicated, they just started to crumble. I love this slide because it just perfectly captures the shift. DoorDash's whole business was built on being the path of least resistance, right? You're hungry, you're tired, it's the app right there on your home screen. But an AI agent, it doesn't have habits. It doesn't have a favorite app. It just finds the cheapest, fastest option every single time. The whole idea of brand loyalty, which is the foundation of the app economy, just became totally meaningless. Then the AI agents went after an even bigger prize. That hidden 2 to 3% tax on every single credit card transaction, the interchange fee. They started routing payments through crypto-based systems that cost almost nothing, totally bypassing the old networks.
By early 2027, the financial giants who controlled this whole system, companies like MasterCard, were starting to feel some serious pain. The fundamental plumbing of consumer finance was under attack. So all of these separate disruptions started feeding into each other, creating this really dangerous feedback loop. The memo calls it the intelligence displacement spiral. And it's a downward spiral that once it gets going is just incredibly hard to stop. Here's how it works, and it's frighteningly logical. AI gets better and cheaper, so companies replace human workers to cut costs. Okay, makes sense. But then those laid-off workers have less money to spend, so consumer demand falls. This puts pressure on other companies, forcing them to, you guessed it, invest even more in AI to stay competitive, which leads to even more layoffs. And the cycle just repeats and gets faster. What's rational for a single company becomes a total disaster for the economy as a whole. And this isn't just some abstract economic theory. The memo brings it to life with this really stark example. A senior product manager at Salesforce making $180,000 a year ends up driving for Uber, making maybe $45,000. Now, just imagine that exact scenario happening to hundreds of thousands of people in every major city. This isn't just about losing a job. It's about the complete collapse of the professional middle class. So why is the collapse of this specific group so devastating for the economy? This chart says it all. The top 20% of earners are responsible for almost 2/3 of all consumer spending. This crisis wasn't like a typical recession that hits lower-income workers the hardest. No, this one targeted the very engine of the consumer economy. The results were predictable, and they were disastrous. And at this point, the crisis makes a terrifying leap. It jumps from the real economy straight into the financial system. The infection spread because, turns out, the entire financial world had made this one massive interconnected bet on the stability of white-collar jobs and income. The memo uses Zendesk as a perfect case study. See, the company was taken private in this huge deal, basically bought with borrowed money. And that massive loan was based on one simple assumption, that Zendesk's revenue was stable. But by 2027, AI customer service agents had made its product almost obsolete. That stable revenue just vanished, and the biggest software loan in history went completely bust. And here's where it gets really, really scary. See, everyone thought this kind of lending was safe because the investors couldn't just pull their money out in a panic. But it turns out a huge chunk of that money was actually the retirement savings of ordinary people, invested through things like insurance policies. The risk wasn't just on Wall Street, it was on Main Street, hiding in plain sight the whole time. So as the professional class saw their incomes just evaporate, the crisis reached this terrifying new stage. It forced people to ask a question that was once completely unthinkable. Is a prime mortgage, the safest asset in the world, is it still safe? So now you've got this two-headed monster, a real economy trapped in a death spiral and a financial system teetering on the brink of collapse. This set the stage for a frantic race against time. Could society build new systems faster than technology could destroy the old ones? And then, the memo does something just brilliant. It snaps you out of 2028 and drops you right back here today. Because the dominoes haven't fallen yet. Those feedback loops haven't started spinning. The whole point of this exercise is to serve as a warning, to make us think about the consequences of the path we're on before it's too late to change course. In the end, the memo leaves us with this stark and incredibly urgent challenge. For pretty much the first time in history, our most productive asset, human intelligence itself, is on the verge of becoming a net destroyer of jobs. The old economic rules just don't apply anymore. We have to build new frameworks, a new social contract for this world of intelligent machines we're creating. And the only question that really matters is, can we do it in time?